This is an interview with J. Krishnamurti by Bob Abernethy in Los Angeles, California, 1970.
Next week at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, an influential Indian is giving a series of public lectures. He's a man with a growing following, especially among young people. A man who denies that he's a teacher or philosopher, but a man who nevertheless writes and speaks of the possibility of a complete revolution in the way each one of us thinks and feels and behaves, and through that, the creation of an alternative to what he calls this monstrously ugly world. He is Mr. J. Krishnamurti, whose followers have established the Krishnamurti Foundation of America with headquarters in Ojai. Mr. Krishnamurti, I don't know whether we can begin to get at the essence of your ideas in a few minutes, but let's try. You write that all ideologies and all authorities are worthless. Is that right?
I think it is, because ideologies are merely a postponement of what actually should be done in the present. Ideologies is really an invention of a mind that is incapable of acting directly and immediately in the present.
Do you reject then all organized religion?
Absolutely.
Do you reject all systems of philosophy?
Naturally. Because they're all theoretical.
What about the use of reason as a way to find truth?
Reason is very limited also, because you can reason according to your conditioning. If you are conditioned very heavily as a scientist or as a philosopher or as a socialist, communist, what you will, your reasoning will be within the field of your own conditioning.
Do you reject, for instance, such ideas, ancient ideas, as absolute right and wrong?
I think right and wrong must be looked at from a totally different point of view. I would put it this way. What is true freedom? Freedom implies freedom from fear, freedom from anxiety, freedom from ambition, and so on.
Does that mean that somebody can do anything he wants to do?
On the contrary. If you do what you want to do, you're still acting with a very, very small field of your own egocentric activity. So it is really, freedom implies freedom from the egotistic impulses.
Well, having rejected all authority, then, you urge, as I understand it, that we live completely in the moment, that we live for right now. Is that right?
Not quite. Because to understand the present, you must understand the whole structure and the nature of the psyche, which is the past, which is yourself. You have to understand yourself.
But don't you write, for instance, in this book that I have admittedly not read as carefully as I would like to, but don't you say, reject the past, live for now?
No, sir. No. To reject the past, you must understand it. To reject anything, you must understand it. You can't just say, well, I'll throw it away and begin anew. You can't. You have to go into the whole structure of the past.
But what about concern for the future, for instance? How, someone who's involved in the life of another, especially a parent with his child, must be concerned about what is to come, what tomorrow.
Really?
You don't reject that?
No, obviously not. But the parent will inevitably want the child to fit into the pattern of a particular society or culture.
Mr. Krishnamurti, you write that you think it's possible to end every form of violence in ourselves. Now, how can we do that?
First, by looking at it, not evading it. Because we are trying to avoid it through ideologies. To see that we are violent. Actually, every day, see in what way each human being, wherever he lives, is living a life of violence, whether in the office, whether in the church, whether in the family, it is a form of violence.
But
Because
how do you get rid of that aggressiveness?
first, to be aware of it, to be conscious totally of the whole nature of violence. That is to study violence, to learn about it in oneself.
Well, you know, many people have, all through history, have longed for an end of violence in individuals, but again and again and again, human weakness or a sin or whatever you want to call it has interfered. How do you prevent that? Mere examining something, merely being conscious of something doesn't get rid of it.
No, it doesn't. But you have to observe it in order to understand, not condemn it. The moment you condemn something, you're already identifying with that which you condemn. So, what is important is to understand it. To understand, you must observe and to learn about it. And to observe, you must be aware choiceless. And then you will find out how to end violence. Because it is one of the most important things to understand violence. It exists right through the world. Every man is a violent human being. And he tries to escape from that fact through activity, through neurosis, and so on. So stop first escaping.
Mr. Krishnamurti, I think we could talk all night, but we have to stop. Our thanks to you.